Episode 92 of Mastering Local Marketing. Go to wherever you get your podcast. Please like this podcast. You could also like WJOB Podcast Network. I think we have 19 podcasts, and you don't know what to listen to at night, just go there. You'll find something stupid. And there it is. I'm kidding, because the person running it is a student at Purdue Northwest along with 3 other students. It's a student-run program, basically. It's Adriana Alvarez. I didn't mean anything by that, okay? I'm not saying your podcasts are stupid. I'm just being stupid. How does that sound?
Saying the network is stupid because college students run it? Is that where you're going with this? I mean,
I don't know what to say. I can't have you pull that out because we're live on radio, so it's not going anywhere. I apologize in advance for that, okay? And any of the 19 podcasts that take offense, just remember, it's just me talking. This episode looks at the real state of your local marketing team. Some teams are growing, some are quietly growing cancerous behaviors, and some are stuck in the insanity loop of doing the same thing each day and hoping it'll change. Today we talk through what defines a great marketing team, why every person needs a clear role, and how internal and external partners must support the mission with consistency and reliability. Matt shares insights from conversations with several companies this week where bad attitudes, missed promises, and refusal to adapt have slowed marketing momentum. The episode challenges business owners to evaluate their teams, reset expectations, and take action when people or vendors stop showing up the way they should. This is a direct look at how leadership shapes marketing success inside real businesses today. Matt Hansen, welcome in. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, let's go straight at teams. Marketing teams. A lot of people listening might just be a one-person unit. Let's move off of that, and let's move into the small to medium-sized business that may have a team working on them. Let's say it's a 5-person team. How do you want to start the podcast? What do you want to tell them?
Well, this stems... Let me give you a brief story as to why we're discussing this today. This stems from conversations I've had, and now today is what is today? Thursday. I've had 3 different conversations with 3 different businesses this week, and I'm not naming names, but one was like they're off and running, they're doing phenomenal. Everyone has their own unique roles in what they're doing, and they came together and had conversations and just said, who needs help? Everybody has their marching orders. Anybody need anything? And everyone was just like 100% on board moving forward. The second one, tears and resentment, like complaining. It's everybody else's fault. Things are all falling apart. And kind of the person at the head of it is just like, yep, well, we'll get through it. And you're just kind of going, okay, interesting. And then the third one is, we've been running this campaign for years. We're just going to keep going. It's fine. And you just sit there and you take all of this in. And I'm sitting there going, oh, man, like I want to fix them all. And not the first one, but the other 2. I want to fix them all, but it's not my problem. It's not my, they haven't come to me for this. So, I'm just an ear at this point hearing all of these things. So I said, we've got to define this today. We've got to talk about, even if you're a solopreneur, you're doing all of this by yourself, you still have people that you can hire to do things externally, vendors and so forth. So, what makes a really good team? I think understanding what you're trying to accomplish first is really the most important thing, and defining those roles as to, so again, the last podcast we were talking about the CEO or the owner that goes out there, learns how to do HTML coding and builds a website and spends hours and hours and hours learning how to build a website only to build their nice little 5-page website. When in reality, you can go over to something like Fiverr and just hire somebody to build you a website, which will cost you, maybe let's call it a couple $100 and it's done, right? Next, turn the page. We have to define what, again, we're spending time on, but also, what are the roles that we are associating with? So if you've got a 1-person team or you have a 5-person team, you don't want 3 people in there doing all the social media roles because they're going to trip over each other. So you should have one person that does social, or maybe one person that does, if you're dividing it up and saying TikTok, Instagram, whatever, you can divide it up that way. But again, realize that your messaging is going to get muddled because they're not going to be together, not going to be working together. So define the roles, define what you're trying to accomplish, but get those members in place, and so that everyone knows exactly where they need to be, what they need to do, and that there's not all of these questions like, well, I thought you were doing it. And I hear that a lot, like, oh, I thought you were doing, or somebody oversteps and says, oh, I already posted that, I already did that, I already did this. And, it's like, oh, shoot, I had that ready to go. You should have told me I wasted 3 hours on it yesterday. So defining these roles, defining what you want to do, defining who can be your vendor for that. I think, again, I've had these conversations not only with businesses but also other agencies. One of my dear friends, I joked with him. I called him yesterday and I said, how are things going? And he said, going good. I go, how many hours you spent on your business this week? And he goes, 45 minutes. And I said, all right, you've defined your roles really well, right? But that's what I mean. Like, if you define who is doing what, you're going to be in a much better space.
So you're defining roles, and you want to operate as a unit, right? Small to medium-sized business, the CEO is off here doing a zillion things, and is kind of, let's say, in a situation where there is a 5-person marketing unit. Where do they start?
I think the number one thing is having just brief sessions where you sit down and you talk to each other, right? It doesn't have to be in person, right? You can have a Slack channel or something along those lines that you're communicating and saying, hey, here are the priorities of this week, or here are the priorities that we've got moving forward. But you need to have constant communication. I think every business I've ever been part of, and I'm talking all the way from the Fortune 500 all the way down to the small mom and pop, is communication is always the number one thing that people don't do, right? I think it's funny that human beings, we communicate, but we don't communicate. We just don't share enough. And when you are talking to your team, when you're talking to your marketing team, you have to literally, it's not, I'm going to tell you what to do. It's, I have to listen, right? Communication is a two-way. I send something to you, you decode it, you take it in, you send it back, right? But if you're not communicating with your own employees, how do you think you're communicating with your customers or your potential customers out there? It's all this fragmented messaging out there. So if, let's take you, Jim, like if you say something out there and then Sam is out there saying something different, people are confused. And what really, it has to be a unified front of everybody saying the exact same thing. It's, we call that an integrated marketing communication strategy, right? So like, doesn't matter if I'm calling you on the phone, I'm getting an email from you, I'm seeing an ad out there on a billboard, all of that information needs to communicate the exact same message. So I think from a marketing team's perspective, it's the same idea. Everyone needs to be on the same page, and the first thing that you need to do is make sure that everyone is on the same page and that you don't have a rogue employee or a rogue vendor putting things out there that aren't correlating with what you're saying internally.
All right, let's talk about some of the things to watch out for. Mm-hmm. Some of the things that might be part of a poor marketing team. What do you look for when you go in and you look at their team?
Excuses and negativity are the number one thing that I identify right away, right? So I am not, like, when I find myself complaining, I literally will pinch myself and say, stop. Why am I doing this? Like, why am I spending time complaining about something?
You only complain about one thing.
Yeah.
The same time. It's the same thing. You're not a complainer, but you do complain about having too much to do. That is the one thing. It seems like it's overwhelming on what you're doing, and that is a regular one that it seems on you. And so I guess I ask you say, I just want to hit that one thing because you say, I say no to 90% of things. should you be saying no to 95% of things?
Probably.
That's my point. All right, there you go.
So no, again, with me, it comes down to systems. It's the number one question I get from people is, how do you do all the things you do? And I tell people it's a series of systems and
series of systems, and learn how to say no.
Yeah.
And that I want to bring out, and I'm bringing that out, and I'm stopping the conversation to bring that out because honestly, there's a few things that have come through this podcast that have really hit me, including in the last one about, how to manage your time and stuff. What really has hit me is like he says literally, he goes, I say no to 90% of things that are brought to me, and I say yes to 10%. And it's kind of hit me, and I find myself saying no to a lot more things. And I just bring that out as this is that moment to emphasize that again. But anyways, you're talking about poor teams and excuses and complaining and that kind of thing.
Right.
What do you say to the head of marketing how to address that?
So much. So, again, I can tell just by walking in if somebody is complaining or they're negative about something. I can tell either they are not at the top of the business, right? They're not a senior manager or whatever. They are a doer. Right, so they're constantly they're the taskmaster, so to speak. Right, they're doing things that have been given to them. If they're complaining, it means that they're not providing solutions. So what I say all the time is, if somebody comes to me and they say, "Oh, well, we can't do this," and I'll say, "Okay, we can't or we won't." Like, well, we can't. And I say, "Why can't we?" We can do anything we want to do. You just got to provide me with some ideas here, right? So I say, give me 3 ideas on how we can solve this. They're like, well, I suppose if X, Y, Z, right, happens, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And I say, okay, which one's the best one? Which one's the best option? What can we do? And it's funny, instead of the can't part, we can't do this, or it won't work. Have we tried it? Well, no. Well, why? Well, because it won't work. Have we done it? No. Well, how do you know it won't work? I don't. But so we haven't done it. Well, no. And you've heard this conversation a million times, right? And what it is let's try it. What's the worst that could happen? And it's funny. One of my coworkers at the university writes Matt Hansenisms, as she calls them, and she wrote on the board, and it sat up there for about a month and a half. What's the worst that can happen? And really, honestly, everyone's complaining about things. Nobody's bringing solutions. I can tell you right there, those people don't need to be part of your team. When I address my clients, when I address my employees, the thing that I say to them is, how can I help you accomplish what you're trying to do? Right? So if I'm overseeing a team, I don't walk in there and go, I want you to do X, Y, Z and do it by next week. I go, hey, we've got this goal that we're trying to accomplish. What's the hiccup? What's the thing that's driving you crazy at night that I can come in here and help you with? How can I fix it? Right? Like, is there a battle that I can go and fight for you as you continue to work towards the goal? So ask yourself, if you're a small business and you're out there and you're hearing the naysayers, the ones like, that's not going to work, or we did that one time. Right? Ask them, well, how would you have done it differently? Why did it fail? Ask these questions, and if they just continue to be negative about it, they're not a good fit for your team.
So that all comes back to communication, which you've mentioned there, that most, hairy business, small to medium-sized businesses don't communicate enough. It all boils down to that, a series of questions and bringing it out, not criticizing, and just trying to find solution. Right. But built into that are some, maybe the whole unit or some parts of a unit or one person. They just don't want to adapt to or innovate.
We've done it this way.
Yes, or try something that might fail is really what it comes down to. How do you address that?
As human beings, we are comfortable in familiarity. we don't want to rock the boat, right? You've heard that saying a million times. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to change too much. But the funny part is, if you don't change, we're going to do the exact same thing we did last year, right? So you have the sports network and you've brought in X
the hidden cost of letting it continue.
Yeah. This is what we do. We're just functioning. We're just living, right? But it's funny because people will complain, oh, we're not growing. And I'll say, well, what did you do differently this year? Well, nothing really. And I said, and you're shocked that you didn't grow? Right? Like, did you expect people to just show up and find you? That's what I mean by, like, you've got to evolve. And I see this every single week. Well, we've always done it that way. Okay. Or we did it that way 10 years ago and it worked. Okay, that's fine. Is the world the same as it was 10 years ago? Is the world the same as it was 6 months ago? Right? You can point in any millions of directions to say it's not. And is it going to be the same in 6 months from now? Right? So the world is moving faster. There are more competitors. There's smarter people out there. Even if you're talking about, living in a 5,000 person town and you own a florist, there are new people popping up. There are new florists that are showing up online. There are new people that are coming into your area that may be more technically savvy. There are new opportunities, right? So, we talk about the sports network. That is a new opportunity that was not available, 5 years ago. So it's all of these things that are evolving, and those people that are stuck in this is how we've always done it, or we were successful 10 years ago by doing it this way. That's not going to work today, right? Like, you've got to literally dissect that and go, okay, why did it work back then? And what pieces of it today might work, but do we need to evolve this to be a little bit more present day?
This all sounds hunky-dory. I'm going to,
that's fine.
The average harried business owner or head of a small marketing team at a small to medium-sized business, it's like, that's great. I understand that we should always be driving growth, but it seems like I'm always putting out fires. Mm-hmm. My whole day is just putting out fires. How can you convince that the owner, the small to medium-sized business owner, or leader of that marketing team, or members of the marketing team, that the concentration has to be on driving growth and not on putting out fires all the time?
Right.
Because that's what 600,000 small businesses in Indiana where we're sitting, that's a good portion of their day, if not all their day. Put a fire out, put a fire, deal with this, deal with this, deal with this. All of a sudden, I've worked 10 hours and I go home.
I know nobody carries business cards anymore, but do you want to put firefighter or revenue generator on your business card? Because that's all it comes down to.
Good point.
Right? So, okay, you want to be the firefighter. Great. Put fires out all day long. That's your job. You've defined your role. My role is to put out all the fires, which means that I am not a revenue generator. I'm not part of that marketing team that's going to generate the revenue. I've defined my role. This is what I do. Now, if there's not a fire on Monday, I can be a revenue generator. But you've defined the role that you're going to put out fires. And that's what you're going to do. So if that's where you want to put yourself, that's fine. There are other things, right? So, you're going through your day and you're saying, well, I've got to get the accounting done, right? I've got all these orders that came in and they got to go into the books, and I've got to, see revenue statements and all. Okay. You can do accounting. I think we've talked many times about how much I hate to do accounting. I can do accounting. Is that putting any revenue in my business? No, not at all. Could I pay, a CPA to go in, or a bookkeeper to do these types of things? Sure, all day long. So if I'm spending $50 for them an hour to do this, and I'm out there generating $200, I'm a revenue generator at this point. If I'm doing the books, I'm a firefighter, and I'm putting that fire out, which would have just cost me $50 when I could have gone out there and generated a lot more revenue. So I get it. There's a lot of people out here going, Matt, but seriously, we're not going to generate that much revenue. But you have to figure out where you're at. Like, what makes sense for you? So, we've talked about in the podcast, working on a printer, working on your Wi-Fi, like that's firefighting. You're putting fires out. Or you've got a customer that is angry about something. The question that you should say is this, is this your 80-20 customer? Is this a great customer? Is this a pain in the butt customer that does nothing but cost me time? And if you go all the way back to like our first 5 episodes, we talked about spending time on those customers that will just bleed you to death. And that's what I mean. Like, you're playing firefighter to a house that should have been abandoned anyway, instead of saving the mansion that you should be focused on. How are we going to build this mansion up?
Speaking of build, so this episode 92, building the right marketing quote team, it has to be built on that. Sum it up.
Define roles. Make sure people understand what their goal is, what they're trying to do. Don't overlap. And if you have a good marketing team, and I'm not saying you have to hire internally if you're a small business, you literally can hire vendors to do things. Identify your revenue goals, identify your marketing team, clear goals. I'm telling you right now, you'll grow faster than if you're just putting fires out and not paying attention to it.
Episode 92. Please like us on wherever you get your podcast. Like the entire WJOB podcast network. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you to Adriana Alvarez for producing. But most of all, thanks to you for listening or watching. Until next time, see you later.